First question, why are you running?
I'm running for a number of reasons. One, I have so enjoyed being a city commissioner these past 10 years. I love serving our community. I feel like we've accomplished a lot of hard work in the last 10 years, and I want to make sure that the city continues moving forward, that we build on the successes that we have already done. When you think about 10 years ago when I was first elected, the city, we faced a horrible economic downturn, and it was through the hard work of not just the City Commission, but City Commission, city employees, residents who came forward to be a part of the solution that we have turned around, that we've really turned things around. We're on much more stable ground financially. We have a budget stabilization. We have money in our budget stabilization fund. We have a AA bond rating, and I feel really proud of the work that we've done. So I want to continue that, build on what we have done, and then also start working on some of the problems that still exist in our city. I'm a problem solver. I like to be involved. I've been actively involved in neighborhoods in the last 10 years, and I feel it's rewarding to see the impact of the work that you've done and working with other people that care so deeply about our city. So that's why I want to run.
You talked about the budget, and the budget is under control through a lot of hard work, but it's been said that one more economic crisis on the national level could set the budget spinning once again. So what's your approach to the budget?
Well, that is exactly the reason why we have been building up our reserves. So when we hit the economic downturn last time, we did not have reserves, and it was devastating. We cut hundreds of staff. We froze pay. We reduced services, and it was hard. It was really hard work. But we have been committed to building up our contingency and our budget stabilization fund. And that will give us time to come up with some solutions if we hit another economic downturn. And we have addressed a lot of the legacy costs that existed when I was first elected. So we went through multiple rounds of labor negotiations over the last 10 years. We have had deep concessions. City employees have sacrificed. We've closed our defined benefit retiree system for general employees. We moved to a 401k. We closed our defined benefit retiree health care system, went to an HRSA. We increased premium sharing to 20%. So when I was first elected, it was 0. And that has dramatically reduced our long-term liability. And that too will help us. So if we do get hit with another economic downturn, we are going to have already addressed a lot of those long-term liability issues.
You've also been helped by two separate tax initiatives. Back in May of last year, after the road tax, the day after it passed, I talked to City Manager Greg Sundstrom. He pledged at that point that that'd be the last time he would suggest raising additional taxes. Will you rule out the idea of raising taxes in the future?
Well, I agree. So a couple things about the taxes. One is they're both short-term. So the parks request was a 7-year request, and the streets was a 15-year. So what we did, in partnership with a lot of people in the community, we want sunset taxes and say this is how much money we need to build capital, to make the improvements in parks, to make the infrastructure improvement on streets. And it's short term, it's not in perpetuity. So yes, I am very hopeful that we are not going to have to go back to citizens and ask for another tax increase. I don't think it will happen anytime soon. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know where we're going to be in 10 years. And I also don't know if there's a citizens group that comes forward. I mean, you look at the last two, both parks and streets, and citizens were urging us to do something. And they came to City Hall and said, we're willing to pay more in order to put money into infrastructure to improve both parks and streets and sidewalks. Especially the one with streets. I mean, we had residents actively saying, if you will take sidewalk repair off of our plate and include it in this, we will support it. So that was the whole sidewalk inclusion into the income tax extension was a significant piece for a lot of people.
So you won't rule out as the mayor, as a sitting city commissioner, however it comes to you, you won't rule out putting another question like that before the voters or any other.
Well, let me clarify. I will not support any request for a tax increase from the city. I mean, there's a lot of other jurisdictions looking at tax increases until at least one of the current requests, the parks or the streets, sunsets. So I don't want to be premature, because if a citizen group comes back and says, we want another 3 years for parks because there's more work to do, I don't want to rule that out. I think that would be short-sighted, but I would not support any tax increase as long as we continue to have the parks millage and the income tax extension. I think people are paying a lot, and I'm very concerned that people are not going to be able to afford the taxes, especially as we look at all these other tax increases that are coming down the pike.
Race relations. After the national headlines, there are several groups in the city trying to improve those relations within the city, especially with the police department. Do you believe this is a major issue in Grand Rapids? And if so, how do you approach it?
I do. I do think it's a major issue. So there's a number of reasons. One, the data just shows that it is. We had the Forbes report that came out that clearly showed that Grand Rapids is one of the worst metropolitan areas for African Americans to prosper. Just on Tuesday at our City Commission meeting, we had a report on the economic impact of disparities in our county, and we have other data that show that there's significant disparities that exist in our city. And it is an issue. We want to be a diverse city. We want to be an inclusive city. We want people to feel welcomed here when they move here. We want them to be able to live here and raise their family and be free from discrimination. And so it is a big issue. I think as a city, what we can do is make it one of our top priorities, and that's what I would do. The city has a long history of doing this. They will take an issue and they will pull individuals together, and they will come up with a plan, and I think that's exactly what we need. We need a strategy. But it can't just be the city, and it can't just be the mayor. This is a community-wide issue that needs a community-wide response. Systemic racism is a complex issue, and so you have to have a multitude of people around the table, and we need to come up with community initiatives that will actually create long-term change.
You have an open mic. What else would you like to say?
I would like to say how excited I am at this opportunity to serve our city in a different capacity. I feel like I have learned so much these last 10 years. I feel like people know me, they know my record, they know that I'm accessible and responsive and trustworthy, that I follow through, that I'm a very hard worker, and that I work closely with neighborhoods and residents to do what I can to make our city a better place. And that's the kind of mayor I would be. It's interesting, someone was talking to me and they were asking me what my style is, and my style is to work with people. There are so many people in the city who love our city, who love their neighborhood, who want to be engaged. And I think as an elected official, your job is to connect with them, bring people together, and work with them to help accomplish their goals. And that's an exciting opportunity to me. So I ask people to vote for me on August 4th.